Perfect. I suggest we start. If everybody is ready, welcome to the joint webinar by EUSPA and EBN on space technologies, for energy and raw materials. This is already the third one in a series of 5. So we kicked off well. We see good traction in both communities, the EUSPA and the EUBIC community. We're together today and in this series to explore the potential of data from satellites, space data, and showcasing how you can unlock new business opportunities. Tackled a few topics already, but we will be enjoying topics such as farming, consumer solutions and IoT, maritime, and how to support the environment in the green transformation. My name is Bram Pauwels. I'm the Strategic Communication and Partnership Manager at EBN. Once again, thank you for joining. Especially today, we are joined by the colleagues from EUSPA, Marketa, who's there every session. I'm very happy she's always next to me. And colleague Eduardo. Thank you for joining Eduardo as well. He's our specialist of the session today. Eduardo and Marketa, they both will be showcasing ideas and innovative solutions using Europe's Galileo and Copernicus services. Tailored to our audiences that we're addressing, we'll focus mainly on entrepreneurial solutions. So perhaps before we dive into the agenda, some house rules. Although we encourage you to mute your microphone, it would be great to see some faces, so feel free to turn up your cameras if you want. During the presentations, you can place your questions in the chat. Afterwards, concluding the sessions by Eduardo Marketa, we'll have an extended Q&A session. So jot down your questions. You can place them in the chat already, but at least be sure that Eduardo and Marketa will be there to answer them one-on-one with you in the group. Once again, this session is recorded and will also be shared with our audiences afterwards. So if you want to remain anonymous, please switch off your camera in that case. It's a pity, but feel free to go so and change your screen name to stay fully anonymous. Let's have a look at the agenda, what's on for today. I'll be kicking off. Marketa will be closely joining us. She will be highlighting as well the EU space program opportunities. And then we'll take a deep dive in space technologies for energy and raw materials by Eduardo. We'll see some interesting examples of existing projects and applications. And then again, as announced already, the Q&A session. So bear with me. I'm happy to tell you a bit more about what EBN is and what the EUBIC community is before I hand over to Marketa. Many late entries. EUBIC is community facilitated by EBN, and I think what brings us together is that people are grappling everywhere for solutions these days, and there's no doubt that technology is destined to be the central component to addressing our shared challenges. EBN serves organizations that use business and innovation as a force for regional, economic, sustainable, and social development. They are recognized by this EUBIC label and the certification process and connected via the pan-European EUBIC community. EUBICs use the best possible actions to create thriving startups and SMEs. They work in different industries, ranging from space, deep tech, AI, medtech, smart materials, agro-foods, as far as you can imagine, also in the cultural sector. But one key features of our members, the certified EUBICs, is they're really taking steps to ensure that their services are best advantageous to their clients and best advantageous to their regions. You find them often in emerging regions in Europe, and they really use the vehicle of innovation, entrepreneurial innovation, to promote growth, sustainable growth and job creation in their regions. As of 2021, the latest moment to be measured, there are more than 110 quality certified EUBICs and 30 plus associate members in over 35 countries. We're also in Canada, Adam, so I'm happy to follow up with you. It would be interesting to connect. But we shape a global EUBIC community. What do our members do? I think they come from a diverse background, though, ranging from accelerators, incubators, science parks, to academia actors, also technology transfer organizations and chambers of commerce. So including the investors that we network. You can say that our members form micro innovation ecosystems in the place where they are, working with the quadruple helix of innovation. And what joins and unites our members together are 4 mission commitments. I took this time to introduce a slide, so I know it's a lot of text, so maybe I should be silent for a moment, which is a bit less interesting for a webinar, but so I encourage you to read it later and listen to the presentation, or not, or switch and read, but whatever interesting for you. We have 4 mission commitments that unite our community. It starts with regional economic development, of course, in the broader sense. Our members are committed to deliver the best quality business support to startups and SMEs. How does it show compared to the EU average? For example, startups supported by our members outperform in the first and 5-year survival rates compared to the overall average in Europe. We provide access to finance. Last year, we measured collective attraction of capital of 1.3 billion euros distributed among the different startups and SMEs in our network. And of course, we contribute to scaling European innovation. EBN is the organization, of course, today joining with EUSPA, hosting this webinar. We facilitate this and support this rich pan-European global community of people, all using innovative business as a driver for sustainable economic development. As you can see, what does EBN do? Maybe here I just take a pause and let you read it. There's a short header, so let me continue as well. As you can see, indeed, facilitating collaborations, global networking and advocacy, and working with partners in the European institutions. We're very glad in collaborating with EUSPA and the broader European space sector towards building a green, digital and fair society, making Europe the hub for solving our global challenges, both powered by innovation, technology, and the ingenuity of entrepreneurial innovators. And I think Marketa knows her cue already, and I would like to invite her to join in and tell more about EUSPA before we hand over to Eduardo afterwards.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Bram, for the introduction and for organizing this webinar together already for the 3rd time. So it's been a pleasure to work together, and we are happy we can reach EBN community and talk about how space can enrich different industries, and today energy and raw materials. So let me introduce myself. My name is Markéta Gladyshev. I work as a consultant for market development team of EUSPA. And before we go to the core of today's webinar, which Eduardo will present, I would like to briefly introduce EUSPA and activities that we do for businesses and startups. So EUSPA is a European Union agency for the space program based in Prague, and managing European space program covering Galileo, which is a global satellite navigation and positioning system, EGNOS that makes navigation signals more accurate and reliable. A third program, Copernicus, that is Earth observation and monitoring program based on satellite and non-satellite data. And finally, GovSatcom, targeting governmental users and secure satellite communications for EU governmental actors. EUSPA was formed last year and replaced a former GSA, which was a Galileo agency. And EUSPA took under its wing Copernicus and GovSatcom last year. However, for Galileo and EGNOS, there's been a lot of work in terms of market development. I would like to highlight a few examples. For example, there are already 2.5 billion Galileo-enabled smartphones on the market, or 50-car brand selling more than 150 EGNOS and Galileo-enabled models. And also, there are 97% of new tractors in Europe using European GNSS to optimize agriculture. On this slide, I would like to introduce to you what EUSPA is doing for businesses, startups, and innovators. So first of all, as you can see on the left, there are several funding tools. One of them is Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe. And these are grants, funding, focusing on development of applications. You can see the link to the website. I can also share later to the chat, but you will also have this presentation. And there are always open calls on the website, so you can see what is actual. Another tool, Fundamental Elements, they are focusing on development of hardware, meaning antennas or chipsets, for example. A third one, Adoption Grants. This can be, for example, a retrofit solution for airplanes. These grants are focusing rather than developing something completely new to identification of the gap and closing this gap with this, for example, retrofit solution. And finally, entrepreneurship initiatives. European Commission launched a big initiative called Cassini that focuses on supporting of startups and innovators using space data. And at EUSPA, we are supporting innovation and startups under these programs in different ways. For example, organizing hackathons where startups are encouraged to develop ideas using space data, or competitions. Then the aim is to develop either a prototype or a product ready to be launched on the market. And finally, we do activities for startups. They further support them on the way, building their business. So it doesn't end with the competition, but for example, we do some matchmaking activities, connecting them with investors, with industry, with venture capitals. Also, EUSPA will be launching second edition of a development program that focuses on startups and innovators, providing them training and learning. And few invitations. I would like to invite you for Space Crossroads on this Thursday. We will have a guest from Orbify, and it will be practical workshop or webinar introducing simple way to build apps based on the observation data. Another webinar where we are targeting startup
has stopped. This meeting is being recorded.
Yes, sorry, I just heard from the tool that the recording stopped, so it stopped me from talking. Second thing I wanted to invite you for is the webinar EU Space for Ukrainian Humanitarian Help, where we invite startups with innovative solutions and also NGOs who are seeking these innovative solutions. So any startup and company who think their technology might be useful for people in crisis are invited to join. And finally, EUSPA launched Earth Observation and GNSS Market Report this year. And it's a very comprehensive overview of Earth observation and GNSS market in every application industry. So this is like really good source if you're interested in this market. So thank you very much. I will stop sharing now, and I will pass floor to Eduardo, who will deep dive in energy and raw material sector.
So yeah, my name is Eduardo Escalona. I'm a space downstream market officer at EUSPA, and here what I wanted to explain is what can space technologies do for the energy and raw material sector in particular. And hopefully you will find this interesting. Since, of course, we're talking about space technology, let me explain you just briefly which space technologies I am referring to. So basically two, from the ones that Marketa said that are responsibility of EUSPA. The first one GNSS, so it stands for Global Navigation Satellite System. And I hope I don't really need to explain what GNSS technology are doing. They have been providing position and navigation services for many years already. But what I wanted to focus and specify is on the main characteristics of Galileo, which is the European GNSS system. It's a civilian system compared to in comparison with the other systems like GPS, GLONASS, Beidou, and it's already contributing to with a new modern constellation of satellites and increasing the availability of the GNSS signals and mainly also on the accuracy for users. Galileo, we could say that is the most advanced GNSS because it has an innovative model signal design and nice multi-frequency capabilities that are very, very useful in harsh environments. But also because it's the first system that will provide a high accuracy service globally and completely for free, so free of charge. But also some services, authentication services that will provide more signal robustness and protection against spoofing. That it's when somebody is generating some signals, similar signals to GNSS and creating fake positioning, which can be harmful for any type of application. So these two services, the Galileo high accuracy service and the authentication services in the shape of the open service navigation method authentication and the commercial authentication service are services that are going to start rolling out by the end of this year and next year. So looking forward to that. And the second service is the Earth observation that Marketa mentioned with Copernicus, which is the well-known EU Earth observation program. And it also provides free and open global data about the Earth, about its environment. And there are other Earth observation systems, but the main characteristics, apart from being free and open data, is that Copernicus is not only about the satellite images, but apart from the Sentinel missions that are the ones that are the satellites, the existing and the future ones that are planned, Copernicus has also two other components that are called the in situ component and the Copernicus services. The in situ component is basically a myriad of sensors that are distributed across the world, and they provide complementary data to the one that is provided by the satellites. While on the other hand, we have the Copernicus services that are offering processed and analysis-ready data using the data provided by the in situ sensors and the satellites and other sources of data, and they are putting that into different thematic areas. So we have, for example, the atmosphere monitoring, the marine services, land monitoring, climate change, security, and emergency management. And what is important is that all this data that Copernicus is generating, that we calculate that it's more than 20 terabytes per day, it's also available in the past. So all the data that has been generated since the past is also available. So you can do really very nice analysis over that data and try to extract with artificial intelligence a lot of valuable information about the past, the present, and some forecasting of what can happen in the future. And now, so focusing on renewable energy and raw materials. So let me start with the renewable energies. Of course, we know that there is the need for energy consumption is increasing. It has been steadily increasing in the last years, even if you can see here a small decline during COVID times, but it will continue like that. And unfortunately, even if we can see on the right that in 2020, the amount of share for renewable energies was a record high in 5.7 globally. It still is very low, so we have a lot of way to go. But if we take a look at Europe, at the European situation, we can see that for 2020, Europe reached 22% of energy that was coming from renewables. And the current target is currently for 2030 to reach 32%. But now there is a new proposal by the European Commission That's called Fit for 55, which stands for a reduction of 55% of greenhouse emissions. And part of this package is to increase the target for 2030 of using renewables up to a 40% of the energy generated. So which is an updated number and increase compared to before. If we like to take a look at the right side, we can see that wind and hydropower, it was accounting for more than 2/3 of the total energy coming from renewables, and the remaining, let's say, third, it was divided in solar, in solid biofuels, and in other type of renewable sources, which mainly type of offshores like tidal waves or salinity gradient. What is important here is to notice that for the solar power, that it was the fastest growing source, because if we take a look at what was the situation in 2008, it only accounted for 1% of all the energy produced. And it means that in the last 12 years, or in the 12 years from 2008 to 2020, it increased dramatically the amount of power generated by solar energy, which is going probably to continue in the future. If we focus on what can space technologies do, we see that there are several applications in which both GNSS and Earth observation can provide very valuable inputs for the different stages of the energy value chain. And of course, I'm talking about the three with the biggest share, solar, hydropower, and wind, but also for the other types of energy sources which are growing, and they have a lot of untapped potential. And these, as I said, they are kind of offshore energy, but also biomass, for example. So let's take a look at some examples. So specifically showing what kind of data provided by Copernicus in this case can be useful. So for solar power, most of the solar power is generated is using photovoltaic technologies, which of course is a method to generate electric power by using solar cells, and they convert the energy from the sun using this photovoltaic effect, that's called. And these solar cells are then assembled into solar panels. That's what you see in the images, and then installed on the ground, on rooftops, or even floating on dams or lakes. And for instance, for solar photovoltaic production, the atmospheric and climate products from Copernicus can provide valuable inputs and can help to, for example, select the most suitable optimal site locations, estimate the potential of production of solar power, or even support on the predictive maintenance through the analysis of the solar radiation data from the past and the current, making some analysis and current and analyze the forecast for the future, and putting also together all the atmospheric analysis and forecasts. So this is one example of what can Copernicus data do, or satellite Earth observation data do for this specific case of photovoltaic solar power. Similarly, we see for wind farms. So we know that wind is a clean, free energy, that it's renewable, and it's useful also to generate electricity via wind turbines that work on a simple principle. The wind makes these blades spin, and they create this kinetic energy, and then a generator converts this kinetic energy into electrical energy. And similarly, as I said, for the solar power, Copernicus-based data and products such as the land cover, digital elevation models provided by the line monitoring service, information about climate variability, all this information can support in the same way the optimal selection of suitable sites for wind farms, but also on the estimation of the future production of energy with the past, present, and forecasted with information. But not only for these two, but also for hydropower, that is the energy that is derived from flowing or from water, which it's as well powering a turbine, And it's actually this is one of the oldest sources of energy. If you think about water mills, for example, and the interesting thing of hydropower is that it can offer, in comparison with the other two, with solar and wind, it can offer more flexibility and also storage, because you can control the amount of water and you can release it when you want, so to produce the energy a little bit more on demand. So it's very interesting. What we can see is that we can mix these different types of energy and integrate them to have a more valuable and flexible energy production. And in the case of hydropower, when we look at Copernicus data, space data, Copernicus can, for example, predict water volumes, the availability of water in different situations, in dams, the temporal distribution of river flows, or, for example, you can check what is the depth of snow cover, which then eventually it will translate into water flows from the snow melt. And all this information can help for a better management of a hydroelectric plant production, and also for price forecasting, for example. And if we take a look at the other, let's say the alternative or the untapped sources of energy, all this still it amounts for a very little share currently, but it has enormous potential to generate big amounts of energy if it's exploited correctly. The most notable ones are the alternative offshore energy production based on wave and tidal converters, for example, or even some methods using salinity gradients that can generate energy, but also the energy that is produced with plant-based fuels and the biomass energy. So all these are still on an emerging phase, but they have a lot of potential to provide steady and predictable power output. And for these different Copernicus services and products can help to monitor, for example, the sea and ocean currents, but also it can help trace the health and status of crops or vegetation that can eventually translate into biomass or biofuels. And if we take a look at the current market for these applications, and focus on the revenues generated by the Earth observation data and services in general, we can see that half of the revenues are generated by services that are offering an integrated service for the site selection, planning, and monitoring. And sometimes is linked to the second application that is with the highest share, that is the energy assessment and forecast. So if you can do a forecast of the energy, you can also be able to select the site more suitably. And if you look at the right, all the applications, not only these two, but all the applications based on space data are expected to grow year on year for the next decade. So there are lots of opportunities for innovation and for investment in these areas. But also I want to mention GNSS, because Earth observation is definitely the space technology that can provide the highest impact in the energy sector. But also GNSS positioning data can help create these innovative and creative solutions. And here I wanted to show you just some few examples. GNSS can play an important role in the surveying and precise location of power plants, and this is already being done for the infrastructure of energy power plants, but also in performing a more accurate maintenance and monitoring of the infrastructures. But as you can see in the example in the middle, but the most let's say the most relevant outstanding use of GNSS in smart grids, it's in smart grids. So today, grid systems rely on GNSS clocks and time synchronization. GNSS is not only about positioning and navigation, but is also providing is a very reliable and accurate source of timing and synchronization for with atomic clocks, and it's used currently already as a backup in case of outages for the synchronization of smart grids. GNSS receivers that are used for this are low cost, are reliable, very high precision, and it can be implemented in a large number of intelligent green sensors they are called phasor measurement units, and they enable the real-time automatic control of the grid. So, for example, it can help on the rapid detection of intentional or unintentional time anomalies from the network, which can be disastrous, but can identify any other key near-term requirements and real-time control of the grid. So basically, it's to control the stability of the grid when there are multiple sources of energy that are integrated in a single system. And this is just to show you that specifically for this, even if PMUs in the world of timing and synchronization is very niche compared to other segments that rely on GNSS for timing and synchronization, we can see that thanks to this the shift or the transition to green energy and the modernization of the electricity stations, it has accelerated the deployment of PMUs, of phasor measurement units, and we foresee that in the next decade this will continue growing in this direction. Now I have some quick examples of companies that are already using space technology. So you will see that this is not only research or scientific, but there are already some companies, innovative companies, startups, but not only, that are using space data for providing specific solutions for energy, for the energy sector. Here you can see this is Novelties, which is a French company that, among other sources of data, it also uses Copernicus atmosphere monitoring service, and it's using it to provide information about the energy potential of photovoltaic projects, mainly focused on residential and industrial rooftops. So the deployment of photovoltaics in rooftops. And they provide technical, financial information to support basically decision taking. So this is one of the examples. Another example for wind farms, for example, is Vortex, which is a company from Spain that provides similar services, but for wind power plants. So it's using information from the Copernicus climate change service, such as climate variability, historical wind power that you can use for specific sites. And this can help both for planning the location of the new wind farms, but also to assess in a better way and forecast also the potential energy that can be generated by these wind farms. The next example is Wave Piston, which is a company from Denmark. And it's an example of the other type of renewables, in this case for offshore energy production that is based on wave power. And the solution from Wave Piston is it uses energy collectors that are composed of plates that move back and forth with the wave movements, and they send this pressurized water to a turbine, or even they use some reverse osmosis system, and all of this is used for generating. They are converting into energy, and for this they also have used the Copernicus Marine Service in the way of they are simulating the potential power generation of different locations based on the ocean or sea currents to select what is the best location to install these systems. And in the example for GNSS, so this is the case of EasyPV, which is an Italian company, and this company is using drones, UAVs, for monitoring inefficiencies in photovoltaic panels, in photovoltaic plants. And this is usually sometimes is due because of there are some defective modules in the panels, and these drones carry, of course, an accurate GNSS receiver, but also a thermal camera that it's used to detect these defective modules. So thanks to GNSS and in this case implementing also Galileo, it can navigate over the solar plant with more accuracy to detect to locate these defective modules, and it allows to replace them with a minimal human intervention. And now let me move to raw materials, which seems a completely different sector, but it's tightly related and linked to the energy sector. And not only because, for example, for the extraction of coal, which is the second largest fuel, but also for the increased dependency that on the mining of materials and metals that are required for producing the components for renewable infrastructures, for example, to build high-performance wind turbines, photovoltaic panels, or batteries. So, but only for this, we know that there is an estimation that the mining and the raw materials industry is responsible for around 10% of the global greenhouse emissions. So there is a clear need to greenify this sector. So to make it more efficient, and in this case, we see that space technologies can play a role. They already play a role, an important role to bring valuable data about mining sites in the case of EO, and for GNSS to increase the efficiency of operations. But there are many innovative ways of exploiting that further. So, for example, if we take a look at Copernicus specifically, it can provide continuous flow of information that can be useful for any phase of the mining process. So in particular, it can help on the site selection, detection of mining sites. It can help in monitoring the environmental impact during the extraction, but also after the extraction, so for what is called the closure and aftercare phases, and also for monitoring during the mining phase, for the monitoring the stability of the construction of the mine. And if we take a look at specifically, for example, for most mineral exploration projects, there are a lot of that they don't really progress to the next phase of the mine cycle, basically because they have insufficient data. So they cannot discover if there are sufficient amounts of mineral resources, or there are many other reasons like environmental or regulatory issues. So any amount of data or the acquisition of remote sensing data, including Earth observation, together with other techniques, geophysics, geochemistry, trenching, core drilling, all these are put together and are key into providing all this data necessary for the first phase, for the exploration phase. The next phase is the planning and approval, and this is the one that is really required before the operating of a mine. And this is because it's critical that any mine developer can really demonstrate that they have a full understanding of the natural environment where the mine is proposed to be located, and for any potential environmental impact of the operation of the mine. And this has to be demonstrated when you are requesting the planning and approval for starting the mine. And this can include any type of visual impact, affectation on the land use, habitat, waste management, air emissions, any potential impact on the water quality. And Earth observation can provide a lot of data required to assess, manage all these aspects. And it's usually complemented by any field-based sampling and analysis as well. The next step is the operations, and the design and the construction phase of the mining project. Here, there are traditional surveying and ground assessment techniques that are usually that are normally used, but recently there are more and more information that is combined, this surveying information that is combined with Earth observation techniques and products. And once a mine is operational, this information is really critical, mainly also to ensure that there is a safe and productive production of the mining process. And Earth observation products are very effective for example, for the monitoring of subsidence, of the stabilities of the ground movements, for water management, or even in the case of detecting illegal mining operations, which is a real problem. And finally, there is the case of the site closure and aftercare, which is a very important phase of mining, because any mine is responsible to ensure a successful, responsible closure to minimize any potential impact on the environment, on the health of people, for example, the communities that are living around the mine, and the accessibility of low-cost data, and even long-term, because you have to monitor this for many years after the closure of the mine. For the aftercare is essential. So, and for that, you have to demonstrate that the mine site has been returned to baseline conditions, and Earth observation can provide a lot of valuable data to ensure that this is compliant. Now, if we take a look at the market revenues, at the revenues generated by EO data and services, we can see that most of the market is dominated by applications that are covering, again, in an integrated way, the site selection, planning, monitoring, and also environmental impact assessment. And this is mainly because all these services are usually offered by an integrated or by the same company, let's say, but the same providers. All this information is put together in the same platform, offering it to the mine developers. And we can see that on the right that the trend in the next 10 years is that it's to continue in this direction. But we can see a slightly bigger increase in the side of the environmental impact assessment for let's say, for analyzing what is the impact of the mine. And of course, not everything is about Earth observation. So GNSS has a lot of role here in raw materials and mining, mainly for the traditional surveying techniques that are still fundamental for the mining industry. So GNSS is already being extensively used for mine surveying, for mapping, and for machine guidance and control. But also what we see is that is increasingly being used for some emergent applications like autonomous equipment, or even for positioning of wearables that we have seen, IoT devices that are more and more used in this kind of environments, same like in construction, but also for mines. For example, there are solutions that are already incorporating augmented reality for monitoring assets, for monitoring things on the mine, and this, of course, require accurate positioning for the location of what you are augmenting with your device in the real environment. And so now again, I also here have some examples of companies that are already implementing and using space data for real products and services. This one is Theax from Germany. This is a company that offers services for a more efficient raw material discovery and what they call a semi-quantification of how much of this material is in a specific location, and this is based on spectral data that is also combined from satellite data, but also with drone-borne platforms with drone images and field validation data. Similarly, we have another company that's called Geosense from Netherlands that is using also data coming from satellites, airborne data, ground-based remote sensing technologies, and they are using that for mineral exploration and also for oil and gas exploration. The next example is Sensar, and this is a Dutch company that is using INSAR data, so that it's coming from Copernicus, from Sentinel-1, and this company is providing information about ground deformation, basically, to monitor the stability of the mines, and this is very valuable to reduce risk when you are building assets such as mines. This company says they can provide up to 60 measurements per year. So it's quite often the revisit and the monitoring of this stability during the lifetime of the mine. And they can provide millimeter precision for detecting changes in height of the mine. So whenever you detect a change, you can know that something can happen if there is a displacement of the ground, and it can provoke, for example, landslides. So all this for preventive management of risks, it's really useful. And similarly, SEAL, that is a company from Estonia, and this is also for early warning system that uses Sentinel-1 data as well, and they provide information about ground motion trends. Of course, ground motion is as I said, is the movement of the Earth's surface, and can be caused by many things, by seismic strains, landslides, and landfill activities, and can critically affect infrastructures that are surrounding, such as bridges, buildings, and in this case for mining, also for dams. So it can be used for the disaster risk assessment and management. So these are all the examples and everything what I wanted to explain today. Again, let me put this slide on the market report, because most of this information is in the report that was published in January. It's completely free of charge. You can access that. Here I circled the sector for energy and raw materials. There are many other sectors that are covered, and we are here providing market intelligence, but also practical information of what can space data do for all these segments. So really, I encourage you, if you haven't done yet, to download it, to give a good read, because it's a very valuable source of information. So I think now we have some time, yes, around 10 minutes for some questions, right?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Eduardo. I personally enjoyed a lot. I think the audience hopefully as well. I believe, Marquetta, we will share the link with the market report. Again, I went through it. It was very enriching content, especially for tackling the question, indeed, after having seen your contribution, Eduardo, indeed, where can we find more information or more detailed information or follow-up information based on questions that might emerge. The market report is the place, I assume. I am aware that EUSPA also has a market department with an email address, which we can approach. I'm sure that Marquetta will put it in the chat as well.
Yes.
Perhaps you want to deal with some of the questions in the chat. I would encourage the audience as well. We're with a relatively small group, an intimate group, so feel free to open your camera and your mic and make use of the two specialists in the room at the moment.
I saw some questions at the beginning of the presentation, but unfortunately I had to disconnect and connect back. So I don't know, Eduardo, if you see in the chat, like the very first questions, it was related to
So I see one question about, okay, it says, if from Alejandro, that it says, if Copernicus data can locate the best spot for storing nuclear waste. And he's saying for identifying the less transited places in a country, or where less impact of fauna and flora will be. I don't know exactly. I haven't thought about this situation, but of course, depending on what are the requirements for storing nuclear waste, which I have to confess that I don't know. For sure, you can use Copernicus data to see what is the land cover. If there are the land cover product from Copernicus can show you where are the habited areas, where are the more urban areas, where are farming areas, where you have forests. So it could help you on that. That is one option. There is complementary data of the weather, of the climate, that it's in specific areas. So I guess it can, but I cannot confirm because I don't really know what are the requirements for storing the nuclear data, nuclear waste. Sorry. So there is a question regarding cooperation with ESA project initiatives. If we are okay to be listed as advisors, contributors on the projects. I don't know, Adam, if you want to specify it further. In general, we have a good cooperation with ESA. For GNSS, as you know, ESA has also, we have our calls and our projects as Marketa presented, but we are also cooperating with ESA, for example, with the NAVISP program as advisors or reviewers of the projects. I don't know which other initiatives are you referring to, but we
so
also plan to do.
If I may, the question is about just advising regarding data. So I mean, we have some ideas that we were working with ESA about using climate data for energy consumption prediction, but because we're a software company and the other company's power distribution, none of us have, let's say, specialization in your data sets, right? So we just wanted to know whether or not, it's not like you would be, I guess, subcontractors, but I mean, if you can officially be mentioned in there as advisors or something like this in case ESA has doubts about the integration of your data sets into the solution.
Okay, I mean, definitely, I think we are open to support any type of solution that is it's using Copernicus data. Usually, I would expect that ESA can also advise and give technical expertise. At least that's what we do also with our projects. We have technical experts that are accompanying the project and are supporting for that. We will have to see in specific cases. So you can contact me
of course.
afterwards, and of course we can check that.
Okay, great.
Okay, there is another question that was for me, but I don't understand it. Maybe Thomas, if you can explain better the question, do you want to verbalize it? Thomas Muraita. The question is, which direction of satellite data, in your opinion, still wait for better commercialization? Unfortunately, I don't fully understand the question. What I can say is that if we consider Copernicus data and Copernicus products and services, we know that they are extensively being used by institutional users, by policymakers, and EUSPA's role, and we started working on this last year, is to make sure that that this data is also used by the downstream sector, mostly the commercial sector. So there is, of course, clear cases in which this data is already being used. For example, for agriculture, there are some farmers that are already using this data. But we believe there are lots of cases, and this ENrich is an example, in which there are already some solutions, but there are lots of opportunities for commercialization of this data. And of course, not only on Copernicus, but also on other types of Earth observation data, in which we see that, of course, the characteristics are different, but you can combine very high resolution data with the data combined by data offered by Copernicus for different phases of projects and applications. So I don't know if that answers your question, but we see a lot of opportunities in all the market sectors. So that's why also we are doing this series of webinars trying to target the most interesting ones. Okay, Andrea also mentioned one specific case, Beetle for Tech. I don't know, Andrea, do you want to explain it, or I don't know, Bram, do you have time for this? It's not really a question.
Yeah, it's just a remark, best practice from Austria, and they use satellite data for sustainable forestry, that you can track the specific tree that is made into furniture, and then you can use the app to track your piece of furniture and see where the tree was grown in the end. So for the customer to see where your products come from which specific forest.
Thank you for your contribution, Andreas. Sounds interesting indeed. Perhaps final two questions. I think one of them is by Tony, tapping into illegal mining. It was to you, Eduardo.
Yes, I can read that. That illegal mining is a problem in South Africa, South America, and Africa. If we have specific examples, we don't have, but we can try to look for it. So Tony, if I think we can share my email, you can write us, and we can work on that. We haven't found any specific company, but maybe we haven't looked for it specifically. But we know that it's possible, and we know there are some cases. But now, on top of my mind, I cannot remember it. And then the last question from Alejandro is about the digital Earth Twin. If EUSPA collaborated in this project, this is a project basically designed by the Commission and ESA, also with the support of ECMWF and other actors for Destination Earth. We are not directly involved. Of course, we are following it, and we will follow what are their outcomes. It's still in its infancy, so still there are no outcomes. But we will follow it closely, and whatever useful outcome of this project, we will try to leverage as well. But I cannot say much more about it.
Thank you once again, Eduardo. Perhaps Marketa, I'm not sure, there was a question earlier by Nelson. Military technology can be applied to this call. I saw your follow-up question. We haven't heard from Nelson. Maybe if it's still relevant, Nelson, do you want to?
Yeah, actually, Nelson sent me direct message. I already replied to him. So
Okay, perfect.
I believe, yes.
Splendid. Once again, thank you, Eduardo. Very practical solutions and applications, enriching content. Marketa, I leave it up to you to close this third webinar for energy and raw materials.
Thank you, Bram, again, and thank you, Eduardo, for the presentation, and everyone for the participation. I hope it was really useful for you. We will share the presentation, and I only wanted to say that to the email I share to the chat, and Bram will share with you later, you can contact us if you have any question, or if you think you would like to cooperate with us, you can approach us directly, and we will be happy to find a way. So thank you again.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. Have a nice rest of the day, Adam and partners.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.